Well. The moment you are seeing this video means that we have made it. Sometime in January, I don't know exactly when, but it'll be out, and we made it, because if you don't know, the whole point of me ranking every Pokemon ever was to keep me occupied until Scarlet and Violet came out. Yeah, it's January. Scarlet and Violet have been out for 2 months now, and I've had 2 months to familiarize myself with these new Pokemon. So I figured, it's a perfect time to finally rank every Pokemon ever. Because once we get to the number one Pokemon, and I talk about it, means I've shared my opinion on every single Pokemon ever. However, we are not quite done with this series just yet. Because yes, I have ranked each Pokemon within their respective gens. However, I have not ranked every Pokemon ever in one tier list. Now, I'm not doing it exactly as in one giant tier list. Basically, there are going to be 2 final videos coming out in February and March, where I talk about the worst of the worst, so the not a fan tier and the bad tiers I'm ranking all together, and then I'm going to do my true least favorite Pokemon ever, and then on the opposite side of that, the best of the best, so the great tier and then the best of the best tier, are going to be ranked in their own videos also. Not exactly as a tier list, but I'll explain that in those videos, because right now, you are here to see my opinions on every Gen 9 Pokemon. And before we get into that, happy 2023. It's January. We've been here for about a month. I hope your year is going excellently, and I hope that it continues to be excellent throughout the entirety of 2023. And without further ado, let's get into the bad tier. And sit in, it's going to be a longer video. We start off with the worst Gen 9 Pokemon, and that is, drumroll please, you can already see, it's Flamigo. I just don't like it, I'm sorry. Like, I get what it's supposed to be, but it still sucks. It's on Swana's level of uncreativity, where it's like Swana, they put an NA on the end. Flamigo, they got rid of the end and made it the Spanish word for friend. Like, nice. I get it. Doesn't mean I have to like it. It also just doesn't evolve into anything. Bombardier is right there. I get it's not a Flamingo, but if it was just Flamigo evolves into Bombardier, I would like it more, I feel like, because then I would say, well, at least it evolves into something. But no, it's just a Flamingo. I'm sorry, I don't like it. I just don't like it. I don't really have much else to say. And another bird, we have Espathra up next. Espathra, it's just kind of dumb looking, I'm sorry. And I also, don't get what it's supposed to be. I think it's an ostrich, but, why does it have that haircut and the eyes and the wings and stuff? It's just, it looks so bad and unnatural. It's this bird that has a Lady Gaga haircut, and it has, these giant puffy, colorful feathers on it. And not only that, a similar reason as to why I don't like Gumshoos that much from Gen 7 is it's everywhere. This and Knackley, everywhere you go, and Gen 9, Paldea, it's just everywhere. It's the regional rodent of this region. Oh man, my cat just fell down the stairs. But yeah, it's just everywhere and it looks bad, so of course I don't like it. And next up we have Palmot. Palmot is one of the most ugly Pokemon I think I've ever seen. And the reason that it looks so ugly is that it tries to be cute, and that's the worst part. It's just absolutely hideous. I'm sorry, I can't stand Palmot because it just looks so bad. I think it's something with the face. The eyes are so small, and the hair looks so bad, and it looks so off-putting. When I see it, I'm like, ew, get it off my screen. This thing is disgusting. Honestly, if I was redoing this now, because I'll tell you something, this tier list was made a month ago, so my opinions have changed a little bit. Probably would be the worst Pokemon. I'm sorry, I don't like Palmot whatsoever. And honestly, Palmy would have been better off just not evolving. Because Palmot's just disappointing because it doesn't look any different. And then Palmot's just hideous. And I remember when I got Palmy first, I was like, I really hope that Palmy gets an evolution. And now I'm back a month later being like, I really wish Palmy didn't get an evolution. that right out of the way, let's finish off the bad tier with Knackle Stack. And Knackle Stack is, it's just weird. It just doesn't work for me. It's just the worst that middle stages have to offer. Usually I don't like the starter middle stages, like Quaxwell from this gen, or Monferno from a previous gen. Just looks so bad to me. It reminds me a lot of those kind of Pokemon that have just awful, terrible middle evolutions. It also just looks unnatural and weirdly geometric. I get it's Salt, and Garganacl looks pretty geometric too, but in a good way. This is just like little Minecraft guy, which I think could work, but they made it look so bad that it just doesn't work. And it's not something that I would want to use in my game and raise up, because I had one on my team, and then I ditched it for an Earthworm I found, because I just didn't want it on my team, because not only was it bad, but it was also just ugly and weird looking. So I'm sorry, but I don't like Knackle Stack at all. Alright, and now that I've gotten the 4 Pokemon that I really don't like from this generation, let's go on to the ones that I don't like, but I can see why you would like if you liked them. Starting off with Capsicid and Tinkatink. I think by now, if you've watched these videos, you know I don't like baby Pokemon. I don't like Toxel. I don't like any of the baby forms except for maybe Pichu, because they're useless, and I don't like babies in real life that much. I think they're kind of ugly naked rat-looking things. Sorry to any of my babies watching. But these two in particular look especially bad to me because they look like little brats. Tinkatink especially, it just looks spoiled. It has a hammer and it has the stupid haircut, and it just reminds me of what a spoiled brat baby would look like. So I just don't like it. And then we have Sandy Shocks up next, which is by far the worst Paradox Pokemon. It's not even that it's that bad. I can see why you would like it, because it's kind of funny how it walks around. And I've been quite the defender of silly-looking Pokemon, looking at like Wug Trio that you're going to see later, and Pokemon like Alolan Dugtrio. I've defended... what else have I defended in the past? Diglett, obviously. But there have been a couple ones that I've defended in the past, but this one I just can't get behind. It just doesn't make any sense. And I know you're thinking, it's Pokemon, it's a video game for kids, it's not supposed to make sense. But this one in particular, just like, it just doesn't work, because it's from the past. Why would you pick Magneton of all Pokemon to bring back? Because that's a future. We discovered magnetism later, so like why... It just doesn't work. It defies science. It's just weird. And also, another little side tangent, why not Magnezone? Magnezone is like 10 times better than Magneton, and yet we give the form to Magneton? I would get Magnemite because it's cute, similar to what they did with Jigglypuff over Wigglytuff, but why Magneton over Magnezone? Like, I think I'd like it more if it was Magnezone, because Magnezone is just cooler overall. And then we have Bombardier. I already talked about it earlier. I don't know if it's Bombardier or Bombardier, so I just go back and forth between them, hoping one of them's right. But it's just another bird I don't like. It's probably by far the most forgettable Gen 9 Pokemon. Like, if you asked me to write every Gen 9 Pokemon on a piece of paper, I would absolutely forget to put Bombardier down, which is a shame. And mostly, it's just kind of forgettable. I don't really hate the design or anything, but it's just kind of doesn't really stick in my mind that much. You could also say that the Dark Flying type is cursed, because Murkrow, another Dark Flying Pokemon, is one of my least favorite Pokemon ever. Scratch that, it is my least favorite Pokemon ever. Spoilers, I guess. So I guess you could say that the Dark Flying type just doesn't really work that well for me. And then Palmo, I kind of talked about earlier, it's just too simple, doesn't change enough from Pawmi, so I just don't like it. And then Houndstone is kind of off-putting, and like not in the good, scary ghost way. It's just kind of weird. Like the skeleton paws kind of just throw me off. And like not only that, but it just kind of looks, it's kind of like goofy because it has like a weird tombstone on its head, and it has like this absurdly long hair. Like, I don't know, it doesn't work for me. You could say it's like a Porygon 2 or a Weevil, or one of those Pokemon that just doesn't click with me. So I'm sorry, I just don't like it. And I actually messed up the papers a little bit, so now I have to go back to the back of the first page. Hold on. Oops. My papers are messing about. Oh yeah, so going back to the I'm losing my mind. Going back to the Houndstone story. Um, Back when Scarlet and Violet was new, like the first week of Scarlet and Violet, a YouTuber posted a thumbnail with Annihilate in it. And I was like, oh, that must be Greavard's final evolution. And I thought it was like this dog with chains around it, and I was like, that's really cool. So by the time I figured out that Houndstone was in the game, I was like, oh, that must be the middle stage between Greavard and what I thought would be the final stage. And then I later find out that this Houndstone Pokemon, I don't know why I said it like that, is the final stage. And I'm like, oh, that's extremely disappointing. So now, not only with it being a disappointing Pokemon for an evolution, I also was disappointed it didn't turn into this badass looking dog guy with chains on him. So that's another thing to pour on the wound of the Houndstone incident. Okay, and now we're going to move on to the neutral tier. Those are all the Pokemon I dislike from Gen 9. It's actually quite a bit for a new gen. I guess now's a good time to mention that all of these opinions are subjective to change, because obviously this game is not that new, and I have a lot of time for these Gen 9 Pokemon to grow on me, or for me to hate them. So these are just kind of like my initial thoughts, basically, of what I thought of each Pokemon. So yeah, if there's one that I hate, like Flamigo, maybe I'll love Flamigo, and some of my favorites, maybe they'll fall down on my list in the future. Who honestly knows? But yeah, now we're going to move on to the neutral tier, and there's a lot of first and middle stages that I think are okay overall. There's a lot of like Frigibaxes and Arctibaxes in this tier. I like them, but I also don't like them. Frigibax kind of looks weird to me, and then Arctibax is kind of like, it's whatever. It's a lot of Pokemon like that in this tier. But the ones that aren't like that, we have Brute Bonnet and Iron Hugulus, I don't really know. The reason they're here is because they just don't change that much. Iron Hugulus is just Robotic Hydreigon, and Brute Bonnet is just Feral Amoonguss. So I'm sorry I don't like them that much. It's similar to what Pomo or like the Dunsparce did, or even some of the other Paradox Pokemon. It just doesn't change enough for me to have a strong opinion on it, kind of thing. And speaking of the Dunsparce, I'll loop it with Fergraph here. There are evolutions that are definitely deserved. I think the Dunsparce is actually quite funny, and makes sense when you think about what Dunsparce is. But it's an evolution to a Pokemon that I already have not that much of an opinion on. So really, you give a mediocre evolution to a mediocre Pokemon, I'm gonna put it in the mediocre tier. So, like, I'm glad that Girafarig and Dunsparce got evolutions, but I'm also not crazy about them. So yeah, they're still neutral to me. And then we have Iron Treads, and I guess we could do Glamora here too. They're just kind of like these Pokemon that are weird, and I don't really know how I feel about it. Because with Iron Treads, I like it, because I like elephants, but I also think some parts of it could be better. I don't like the red. I think they could have picked a better color to represent Iron Treads. And then the face is a common thing people don't like. I also don't like it. I think if the face was like engraved on it versus like pushed out on the little ball thing, I think it would look much better overall. And then going back to Glamora, it's just kind of like a weird flower thing, and I don't really know what to think of it overall. So yeah, some more neutral guys. And then another one I should mention in this tier is the Quaxly line, except for Quaquaval. Quaxly and Quaxwell in particular, I don't have much of an opinion on, and they are probably the weakest of all three starters, because Quaxly, sure, it's cute, but like, it reminds me a lot of Ducklet, I'll say, and I don't like Ducklet, so that's a bad thing. It's just kind of a duck with a hat on, and I don't really love that. Then Quaxwell is the epitome of awkward middle stages, but the only reason I didn't put it in the bad tier is because I haven't had time for it to grow on me yet, so I can't say I hate it. Or that I love it, so, neutral tier works fine for that. Alright, now let's move on to the good tier. And these are Pokemon that I like, but I'm not crazy for, but I'm sure you know what the good tier means at this point. And actually, a lot of these, when I was writing the script, I actually liked quite a bit. There were a lot of Pokemon in this tier that I'm like, I actually quite like that Pokemon, like Goldengo or Baxcalibur, those kind of Pokemon. I like them a lot, but I don't love them, you know? So they don't go in the great tier, but they can go at the top of good tier, because I think they're really good Pokemon, but I'm not crazy for them. And I'll go over a couple of them now. Baxcalibur, I already mentioned. I'm not crazy for the pseudo-legendary this region. Not reason. Frigibax and Arctibax are kind of like whatever. I think they're very forgettable, especially compared to like the legendary like Gible, Larvitar, and Dratini that we've had in past generations. Maybe even like a Gumi or something. Like those are all notable first stages, but Frigibax is just extremely forgettable, and I just don't like it that much. Baxcalibur though, I actually quite like it, but I don't love it. The problem is the past couple of pseudo-legendaries I've really liked. I love Goodra. I love Komodo to an extent. I love Dragapult. But this one's just kind of, it doesn't do a lot for me. So I gotta put it in the good tier. Because I like it, but I'm not crazy for it at the same time. And then the new evolutions in this tier, the Annihilate and King's Gambit, I think are evolutions done right. I actually really like these two evolutions. I think they are, in Annihilate's case, deserved and really cool. And well, I think that we could have done without King's Gambit because Bisharp's already pretty cool. And I probably like Bisharp more than King's Gambit. I think it's still cool and inoffensive enough that I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I can see why you gave it to Bisharp. And now, I gotta continue. I think this is where the pages get not confusing, so... Okay. We also have Ting Lu, which is the probably the weakest of the Ruinous Legendaries. I actually like the Ruinous Legendaries quite a bit. I think each of them are solid for one reason or another. It's just like the Rock Moose doesn't do as much for me. I think it's just because it looks kind of silly. The ball on his head just doesn't work. Honestly, if they put something else there, like maybe cool horns or something, I like it way more. And then the rest of the tier is kind of just like the small guys, like Finizen or Looper, or yeah, just like small itty bitty babies that I like, but I don't love. And now that we're 17 minutes into the video, let's talk about the Pokemon that I truly love. I love every Pokemon in this tier, and then the best of the best tiers, oh, close to perfection. So close to perfection, but there are a couple flaws with those guys I'll talk about soon. I'm going to be talking about every single guy in this tier, so we might breach over 30 minutes on this video, but better a long video than a short one, I guess. And let's start with the little guys. Fuecoco is absolutely adorable. The starter cutscene, where he like burns the apple and then tries to eat it, it's the cutest thing I've ever seen. There are two Pokemon this gen I actually think are cuter that I'll talk about later. But I think the little apple jalapeno dragon guy is very cool and very cute too. And speaking of one of the cute guys, we have Tandemaus and Mousehold. And the reason that these small white mice are so high up on my list is because it is the cutest, the most enragingly adorable thing I have seen in a very long time. Tandemaus in particular is so goddamn cute, I can't help it. It's two little white mice that look like stuffed animals holding hands that will never leave each other's side. I don't think there's been anything that's as cute as that. It's so freaking cute. And then Mousehold, they just have these cute little mice babies. Oh, I hate mice in real life, like with a passion. But they're so cute. Oh my god, I can't help it. So yeah, I ranked them pretty high, basically just because of that. We have Tatsujiri and Nocli. I wrote these two together because I think they both have pretty good designs. Nocli in particular is like the Super Mario mushroom, which I think is fun. And then Tatsujiri's fun because I like how it's the mastermind behind Dondozo kind of thing. So they're just little guys that I like them in the game kind of thing. And then Satotl is incredibly cute. And actually, I fell in love at first sight. So there's the area just before you go to the ice gym, where you walk up that path, and there's all like the Pyroars and the Espathers walking around. And there's where I saw Satotl for the first time. And I knew what Satitan was because obviously I saw the Scarlet and Violet trailers leading up to release. But I saw Satotl knowing it was a pre-evolution to Satitan, and I immediately put him on my team because I fell in love at first sight, essentially. And I still really love him now. He is so freaking cute. They made Titan this big hulking beast. And they made him cute. I don't know how. Like, it's a whale. It's a giant whale. Whales, usually not the word I would describe them with is cute. I would say more cool than anything else. But Titan's so cute, or Citoddle's so cute that it melted my heart. Pun not intended, but it works. And then the last little guy, we have Chi-Yu, the little firefish. I really like how he's just a little angry goldfish that's also, like, completely evil. Yet he's this small fish with glasses on. I think that's incredibly cute. I also like how they didn't make him a water type. They made him fire dark for a goldfish, which I think is actually pretty cool and gives it more character than if it was fire water or water dark kind of thing. Alright, shall we talk about Paradox Pokemon? I've mentioned a couple earlier today. I've done Hugulus, Sandy Shocks, and a couple other ones lower down on the list. But now we're going to talk about the Paradox forms that I personally really like. And we'll start with past. We'll start with Slitherwing, and Slitherwing is making me sound like I have a lisp. God, I really do have a lisp, don't I? But I love how he walks. He's this little giant, fiery, fuzzy caterpillar thing that just walks on its little legs, and it's incredibly cute, which is not something that you would think I would describe a Volcarona form with, because Volcarona itself is horrifying, and also Iron Moth is not cute. But Slitherwing, to me, is very cute, because it just walks around on its little tiny black legs, and it's like this furry caterpillar, and granted it does have a giant terrifying tail and terrifying wings, but it's still very cute, and I like it a lot for that. And then Roaring Moon is the opposite of cute. It is actually quite horrifying. But Roaring Moon is an absolute badass. I love Salamence, like maybe my second favorite pseudo aside from Metagross. So I'm obviously gonna love any form of Salamence. I'm not huge on the Mega, but this form, I love. I love how menacing it is. I love how it's just more Salamence. And on that note, I do still like regular Salamence more than Roaring Moon, but I like Roaring Moon a lot too, so I like both of them. I just like Salamence a little bit more. Alright, and then we move on to the next page. Hopefully I can figure out where that is. I did this so confusingly, I'm gonna be honest. So, where's the next page? Excuse me for one moment. Aha! Found it! Yeah, I messed up on the script, don't worry about it. Great Tusk is up next, and I love elephants. So, of course, I'm gonna love this giant primal elephant. And I say giant, he is ginormous. Iron Treads, in comparison, is this little tiny itty-bitty thing. Great Tusk is this huge rampaging beast, which is why I think I love it so much, because elephants in real life are these big, majestic creatures. And I'm guessing in primal times they would be kind of like ravenous like this. They'd be all mean and have sharp teeth kind of thing. So I think that the primal and savage design of Great Tusk really works, and it is absolutely the best past form of any Pokemon. Not only because I love elephants, but because it's really cool looking, and I really like how it looks like an elephant that would come from the past. Very unlike Iron Treads, that does not look like an elephant from the future, and looks kind of goofy. But I've already talked about Iron Treads. And now we can move on to the future guys I really like, starting with Iron Moth. It's kind of the polar opposite of Slitherwing for me. It's kind of like this very mechanical, creepy thing. And I really like how it has like solar panels for wings. But the main thing I really like about it is that the wings detach. I really like creatures that have parts of their bodies that like detach or open up. Like a ladybug, for example. If a ladybug flies, its whole back part opens up and you can see its wings. I really like Pokemon that have designs like that. So the fact that Iron Moth's wings kind of like detach and reform and they float there is just really cool. And that's like the main reason I like it so much. I do like Slitherwing more because there's more that I like about it, but I do like Iron Moth overall. I think Volcarona Volcarona was treated good in Scarlet and Violet. And then we have Iron Valiant, which is another badass, similar to Roaring Moon. It takes the best parts of both of them. It takes Gardevoir's elegance and just pure raw psychic power, and Gallade's just badassness. And the best part about it is that they got the cape and the sword from the Mega. It's like they watched my video that came out a month after the game came out, and they were like, people like the cape and the sword arms on Mega Gallade, so they put it on Iron Valiant, and it works so well. Like, yes, Mega Gallade is one of my favorite Mega forms, if you haven't seen the Mega and Gigantamax tier list video. So the fact that Iron Valiant keeps the best parts of Mega Gallade with some parts of Gardevoir and regular Gallade is just, it's perfect. The only thing that holds it back is that it looks very emotionless, even for a robot. Because you can look at any other of the robots, like Iron Bundle has a lot of personality. Even somebody like Iron Treads, you can tell there's a personality in there. When I look at Iron Valiant, I don't see any personality. It reminds me of like Terminator. Like, there's no personality to it. It's just like this emotionless robot, which stops me from really getting attached to it, unfortunately. Next up we have Iron Thorns. I love Tyranitar, so I love the robot Tyranitar. It unfortunately really is just robot Tyranitar. The electric typing is cool, but now it's 4 times weak to ground, which isn't as cool. I also just really like the color scheme of it. I think the dark green and the gray just look really good together, and then it has these striking blue eyes, which the color scheme alone makes me really like the Pokemon. So yes, it is more Tyranitar, but it's a really nice looking more Tyranitar, so I'll put it high on my list. And then we have the best Paradox Pokemon, if you don't count Miraidon and Koraidon, which I don't. Iron Hands. And you're like, why Iron Hands? That's such a strange choice. Because I can see why people would like Iron Valiant. Roaring Moon could be somebody's favorite. Slitherwing, I know, is a couple people's favorites. I don't hear many people talking about Iron Hands. And that's a shame, because I love Iron Hands. It's very close to perfection, honestly. It's a really good design. And the best part is, it takes a Pokemon that was overall mediocre for me, such as Hariyama, and makes it just so cool. The electricity that causes its hands to levitate like magnets makes the goofy looking hands on Hariyama look so cool. And the electric fighting type too, it works so well. This is by far the best electric fighting type. No offense to Palmot, but Palmot sucks. And this is awesome. And I'm sure there's another electric fighting type I can't think of, but this is just so cool. Great typing, great design. I really like the striking yellow color. I talked about Iron Thorns and how I liked the green and gray combination. I think that the popping yellow hands and a couple parts in like the waist strike so much from the overall more monotone gray and blue colors that it stands out so much when you see it in the wild, and I think it looks really, really good, and I just really like Iron Hands. And with that being all of the Paradox Pokemon talked about in this video, aside from Miraidon and Koraidon, what do I think is better? Do I think that the future forms are better, or do I think that the past forms are better? And I've thought about this argument, and I think that Violet and the future forms have a more overall solid design. I like all of the future forms at least a little bit. Even like Iron Hugulus, I like a little bit. Iron Treads, I like a little bit. And then the rest of them are really solid. And then you get to Pokemon like Iron Hands and Miraidon that are just super awesome. But when it comes to Scarlet and the past forms, they have more standouts. So Scarlet is more of a hit or miss situation for me. Like, you have Pokemon like Sandy Shocks that I really don't like. But then you also have Pokemon like Great Tusk or Roaring Moon that I adore. So it's like, would I rather have an overall consistent design, or would I have Pokemon that stand out to me as better? And honestly, Despite me playing Pokemon Violet, I do think that the past forms are overall better. Only because I would rather have a few Pokemon that I think are amazing rather than a bunch of Pokemon that I think are overall solid. So the fact that Scarlet has Roaring Moon and Great Tusk and Slitherwing and all these Pokemon that just stand out as being really cool, I would accept that with having the misses like Brute Bonnet or Sandy Shocks kind of thing. So overall, I do like Miraidon more than Koraidon, so I'd probably still choose Violet. The past forms are better than the future forms, which I know isn't that unpopular of opinion. And moving on from the Paradox forms, let's talk about the rest of the Pokemon. Just the bog standard Pokemon that I really like from this generation. Starting with Garganacl, which is just this cool rock Goliath guy. It's a huge step up from Knucklestack, obviously, because I'm sure as you know I don't like Knucklestack. But it's just like menacing, yet kind of endearing at the same time. Like, it is absolutely hideous. Like, if you've seen its face, it's not a pretty looking guy, but I still kind of like it. I think it's endearing because it's like he's still got this huge pile of salt, which is cool, you know, he's still the salt Pokemon, but he's also got this like derpy like face. You know, there's not a thought behind that mind aside from smash you with a rock kind of thing, which I think is endearing. You know, he's this dumb little rock, and I love the dumb little rock, I guess is the best way to put it. And also another thing giving Garganacl a point in its favor, I got a shiny one. So I uploaded a short a while ago that basically showed you how I got it. I was just wandering down Area 0. For the story, actually, it wasn't like I came back later. And there was this flat platform that had a bunch of Garganacls that spawned, and one of them was shiny. And I was like, oh my god, that's a shiny Garganacl. And it was cool, because I didn't know that King Gambit existed at the time, because I did get a shiny Pawniard before it. So I was like, this is my first Gen 9 shiny Pokemon. And I was like, that's so cool. Because obviously I caught a shiny Deerling before that, and a shiny Pawniard that I didn't know evolved yet. So I was like, this is so cool. My favorite thing to get in the new generations is when I get a shiny Pokemon from the new generation. So, yay. And then we have Lokix up next, which is just a badass. More Terminator vibes. It's like this grasshopper, but he will like kick your ass. Like, you would not win in a fight against this grasshopper. And I kind of like it for that. Now we have Palafin, which I adore. I adore the concept behind Palafin. The fact it's like this superhero in disguise is very cool. I think the Superman concept is really cool, because I'm a big fan of like the superhero thing, where they kind of like hide in public and then they reveal themselves and they're giant badasses kind of thing. The only two problems I have with this is, one, the evolution method. Yes, I do get why, because it's like how Superman came from another world, so your Palafin has to go to a different world to evolve. And the other thing I don't like about it is how you have to switch out of battle to get it into its hero form. I think what they should have done is you send out Palafin, and then it transforms right there. You don't need to switch it out in. Which is just kind of a minor inconvenience more than anything else, but it's still something that, you know, bothers me. So I'm going to mention it. And next up we have Spidox. I don't know why I like it so much. I think Lokix is definitely better on every level. Better in battle, better design. But I think it's because everybody doesn't like Spidox that much. People are like, it's so ugly, it's so bad, worst regional bug, that I naturally come to its rescue. And I'm like, no, I like the design, and I like how it's a spider that stands up kind of thing. So I really don't have a good reason for putting it in great tier. I honestly think I just put it here above Lokix to send a message to people saying that Spidox is good too. And now we have Armorogue, and I'm also going to put Cerulege in with Armorogue. They're both humanoid designs that work. There are a lot of humanoid Pokemon that I don't like, and then there's ones that I really like Mega Gallade. But these two really work for me just because they're like both really cool. I do prefer Cerulege. Another reason why I chose Scarlet, because I like edgy designs. I'm gonna be honest, I like a good purple. Purple's an awesome color. So overall, I do prefer the purple darkness aspect with the sword hands over the red. The red and yellow design of Armor Rogue, which I do think is cool, but like, still prefer Ceruledge Edge. But yeah, both very cool. I like how Armor Rogue's cannons actually come together and form like a giant arm cannon. I think that's a very cool design. And now we're going to move on to the next page, which is, we're going to start with Quaquaval. And Quaquaval grew on me a lot, actually. I still haven't got one in a game, so if you're playing Scarlet and Violet and you have a Quaxly, start just Wonder Trading thousands of them so I can actually get one from Wonder Trade. Because all I get is Sprigatitos and Fuecocos. Not one Quaxly I've gotten yet, and I've done a lot of Wonder Trades. But I like how fruity it is, honestly. When I first saw it in the leaks, because I did look at the starters ahead of time to figure out which one I wanted, and of course I went with the grass one. And I thought it was kind of like this duck that was like, it would form water in its hands and it would throw it at you. And then I saw Nemona had one, and it was like dancing, and I was like, ew, I don't like that. And now looking back on it, I love it. I love how fruity it is. It like dances about. It has like the peacock design. If you didn't know, peacocks attract their mates with their giant feathers. So I like to think that's what the Quaquavals are trying to do. And I like to think that's why they have just huge dump trucks too. Like, have you seen the duck's ass? It is ginormous, and they had no reason to do it, and that's why I think it's so funny. But moving on, we have Skeledirge. I'll jump around a little bit here. I think it's really cool. It's kind of like this Day of the Dead flaming alligator kind of thing, which I think is really, really cool overall. I don't really get the bird thing. Like, it has a bird egg that hatched on its sombrero, and now it fires a firebird, and it's an alligator. Like, I'm sorry, that's a bit confusing to me over, like, haha, funny masquerade cat and fruity duck. And now we have, like, alligator that hatches a bird on its head and now sends it into battle. Like, it's a little more, like, why? Why not just make it a cool Day of the Dead flaming alligator? But I don't hate it. I still really like Skeledirge overall. And I also really like the name Skeledirge. I never would have predicted that in a million years, because it's like dirge is a thing of name for an alligator, and then Skelly is like skeleton, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, feel free. But yeah, really like Skeledirge and Quaquaval. So, and then obviously Meowscarada, I'm sure you can see, is in the S tier. So yeah, well done on the final starters evolutions. Usually there's at least one I don't really care that much for, but no, I like all three here. So, good job, Game Freak, I guess. And speaking of starters, we'll go to Floragato now. I'm not as in love with it as other people are. Some people are like, this is the best Gen 9 Pokemon. And I'm like, really? But then again, I think I'm a hypocrite, because I'm sure you've seen what the number one is, and my favorite Pokemon is Wiglet. So I guess I can't really judge people for having Floragato as their favorite. But like, why not Meowscarada or Sprigatito? Like, why the middle stage is your favorite? But I do actually quite like it. I like the yo-yo part of it, and I just like how it's just like smug. It has like the arms crossed. It's kind of a weird. It's got the middle stage effect for me. It's kind of like not my favorite Pokemon ever, only because it's kind of like an awkward middle stage. But I do like it still. So you know what? I think it's pretty cool. Next up, I guess we'll go to Cetitan now. Cetitan, the only reason it's up here is because of Citadel. As I told you earlier, I fell in love at first sight and then used on my team. I think Cetitan grew on me substantially because of how much I've used it in Scarlet and Violet. Because there's nothing about the design that screams to me as being cool until I used it. And now I actually think it looks really cool. Another really good thing about it is a bulky thing. Like, you can hit it like 10 times before it dies. So it is really good at catching Pokemon. So if I'm fighting like one of the legendaries like Chien-Pao or something, and I throw out Cetitan, it's going to live a good 4 or 5 hits, so I can throw a lot of balls at it. And it just lives, which is awesome for catching Pokemon. And also, it's just really strong in general. Ice types usually are pretty frail and weak. I think of like Sneasel in particular. Hits very hard, but then dies in like one hit to a fighting move. But no, Cetitan can tank a hit and then hit hard back. So I think that's why I like it more than most other ice types, really. And then I just kind of like whales. I think whales are pretty cool animals. In general, I think how just, like, their size makes them like really cool to me, because like they're huge and yet they still like thrive in their ecosystem despite being like the size of skyscrapers sometimes. And speaking of Chen Pao that I talked about a little bit earlier, it's the best Ruinous Legend. I don't think I'm alone on that. I know a lot of people like Chi Yu, and I like Chi Yu too. Chi Yu too. But I do like Chen Pao more, mainly because it's like this cat with swords for teeth, which is just awesome. I really like the swords and the teeth. I think that looks really good. And I think that they did really good with ice types this generation. Ice type, not my favorite type in the world. Most ice types are like towards the middle of the list in most of these videos, but with Chen Pao, Citadel, and Cetitan, yeah, good job with the ice types this generation. Just like the starters, you did really well. I just don't like one thing about it. Its Violet entry kind of threw me off, because it was something like the swords and the teeth possessed snow. So you have this cool cat with, like, sword teeth, and then you make it so it's not even a cat, it's literally just snow. So look up the entry if you haven't already, and tell me if you think the same thing, but doesn't that imply to you that it's just a pile of snow possessed by two swords? Like, that makes it much less cool than if it was just like a cool sword saber-toothed tiger. But at the same time, take that out of the picture, and it's a cool saber-toothed tiger with swords for teeth. So I still like it. And then we have Koraidon up next. It's not my preferred legendary, but I do still like it overall. I think the feathery design looks really good on it. I really, actually, weirdly enough, for one of the main mascots of Gen 9, I don't have that much to say on Koraidon. So I'm just going to say, I like it, and then move on. Dash Buns is up next, and Dash Buns is a baby precious. I cannot get over how absolutely adorable Dash Buns is. And it has no right being this cute. Fido, I can see why you think it's cute, but for me, it's kind of like this dog, like a puppy dog, that I'm like, oh, that's cute, and then don't think much of it. But then I see Dash Buns, and I'm like, oh my god, that is adorable. And there's a big difference between adorable and, yeah, that's cute. But it's also, like, packs a punch. Like, I didn't use a Dash Buns, but my brother actually did when he was playing through the game, and he says that it, like, carried him through the whole game, which makes me respect it even more, because now I know that this cute dog that I already really like the design of now kicks ass in battle, which makes me just like it even more. Oh, I think we're at the final one in the gray tier. Woo! We have Arboliva. And Arboliva, mainly just because I like Smoliv. Not much else to say about that one. It's pretty elegant overall. They made an olive lady without making it look sexy. I like how they made it more elegant than outright sexy, like a Serena or a Rose Raid kind of thing. Now it's just this elegant olive tree lady, which I really like and really respect that they went that route. And I love a good grass type. And with that, now we're going to move on to the S tier, best of the best tier. We're 42 minutes in. I told you this would be a longer one. Sit tight, I guess. Maybe I should have told you that earlier. And we're going to start off with Clodsire. And he is one of the cutest things I've ever seen. I don't know if cute's the right word, actually, looking back on it. Cute, maybe like derpy is the better word. Endearing, I'll say. Because I wouldn't say he's outright cute, but he's very, very endearing. I have my Clodsire in the game, Wesley, the Wooper, that turned into Quagsire. I was actually going to dump in the box halfway through the game, but he actually stayed with me the whole time, just because I never found a replacement for a suitable time, and then he evolved, and then I fell in love, and yep, my fate was sealed at that point. He was a permanent team member. So basically, just like Citadel, it was a love at first sight kind of situation. And I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but he is way better than Quagsire. I still like Quagsire, but I do think it's a little simple. Meanwhile, this guy, while keeping that simple aspect of Quagsire, has like the two shades of brown, and then the spikes also. I really like the spiny spike things that come out of its back when it attacks. I think that gives it a lot of character, and overall just makes it look really, really cool. And now we have Meowscarada, which, it's the grass starter. You probably could have seen it being in my S tier no matter what it is. But I think it actually looks really good. It did take time to grow on me, so I understand why people don't like it, because, the cat stood up. We all knew it was going to happen, so I braced for the worst. But it looks really good. Like, they didn't make it too humanoid like Incineroar. That's kind of my problem with Incineroar, is it looks like a buff man cat. This is more of like an elegant masquerade, elegant cat wizard thing, and I just really like it. Apparently it's supposed to be like a jester, which I guess is why the mask and the cape kind of exist. But the mask and cape in particular make this design look so good. They're like easily the best part of the design. It's better than Rillaboom, if you want that opinion. I probably don't like it as much as like Decidueye or Torterra, but I'd put it above like Rillaboom. I'd put it like on par with Meganium probably for the grass order tier list if I ever do that one day. But yeah, it's up there on my list of favorite Pokemon of all time. So you can expect to see this one next time when I do the best of the best Pokemon. And then we have Orthworm, my man. Orthworm's just awesome. I don't see why you don't like Orthworm. First of all, he's a worm, and worms are like super awesome for the ecosystem. Like they eat dirt and then they poop out soil, which is just straight up better for everything. For us, for them, for plants. Who doesn't love a good worm? I used to save them when they were in my driveway. They'd be like dried up in the middle of the road or like starting to dry up. I'd pick them up with my hands and I'd throw them in the grass. I would save those worms and they would thank me with their soil. I don't know, I'm just a big worm guy. So I think that he's kind of funny because he's just this worm that's just so derpy. Like, there is not a thought behind those eyes, and I love him. He has like little legs that come out of his little bus windows, and that's so awesome. He's supposed to be like a worm bus, which, I mean, the worm bus Pokemon is just so funny because you have to describe him to somebody and you're like, yeah, he's this worm that's steel but is also a bus at the same time. And they would have no idea what you're talking about, which just makes it so funny to me. And also, it just kicks ass in battle. Earth Eater is an awesome ability, and it's also like really good and competitive. It's not like great and competitive, but it's a good member to put on your team, especially if you have a lot of ground weaknesses. Next up, we have Smoliv, and I loved Smoliv ever since it was revealed, because Smoliv is awesome. And because it's the baby. It's the small little olive guy that's always scared, so you just want to give him a hug and be like, stop being scared, and just like comfort him and stuff. And it's so cool. Grass Normal's a kind of a yikes in terms of typing, but it is better than Deerling, if that's saying much at all. And I just really love this small guy. He deserves protection and adoration. Alright, and speaking of small grass people, we have Sprigatito, which is absolutely adorable. And actually, when I first started my game and picked Sprigatito, I was like, man, I hope Sprigatito never evolves, because I love Sprigatito very much. It's on like, let me think of another, maybe like the Chikorita level of first stage grass starters that I just love so much, because I think they're so cute and cool at the same time. Because it's like this cat, and cats can be vicious at times, so I like to think that this cute little cat would be like, if you had it as a pet, it'd be like all aggressive and like tear up your furniture and stuff, and then look at you with that cute look. But more of a commentary on cats overall. I love cats. I love cats and dogs. People are always like, do you like cats or dogs more? And I'm like, I don't know, because I have one of each. I have a dog that I love, and I have a cat that I love. So Sprigatito makes me think of my cat, because it'd be like pure evil, and then look at you with that cute, like, no thoughts behind the eyes face, which I'm sure you can see a theme of. I like the Pokemon that don't have a thought behind that face, like Garganacl or something. Like the ones that are just like this cute animal that don't really think that much about what they're doing. If that makes any sense. Essentially, I'll word this better. It's a grass starter, so that's why I like it. There you go. And then we have Wugtrio, which is just long red Diglets, and I don't see why I wouldn't like Wugtrio, because Diglett, Alolan Diglett, Alolan Dugtrio, even regular Dugtrio are some of my favorite Pokemon ever. So you add long red Wiglets to a rock, and you expect me to not love it? Come on, are you out of your mind? Of course I love Wugtrio. Wugtrio's so cool. It's not Wiglet, granted, but Wugtrio's awesome, and it's very funny. I love how people just get really mad at it. They're like, this is the worst Gen 9 Pokemon because it's just 3 red Diglets. And I'm like, exactly, that's why I love it so much. And I love that people just get so angry about these 3 little Wiglets coming out of a rock. And he's so bad. He is one of the worst Pokemon I've ever used, and that makes him so much better to me. I adore Wugtrio. And then next up we have Miraidon, which is my box art legendary, and also a very cool Pokemon overall. I love the futuristic-y electricity design that he has going on with him. He's just awesome, and I just kind of bonded with him over my playthrough. Like, obviously you ride him everywhere you go, so when you're in that final story cutscene that I won't spoil, and he turns back into, like, the box art mode that you saw earlier in the game, I'm, like, actively rooting for him. I'm like, yes! Kick the other Miraidon's ass and show him who's boss, and then you get to keep him. The only problem with that is it's a little hard to use him in battle, so I'm glad they gave you another one. But yeah, I just really like the Miraidon that I'm riding around on in my game, which does definitely help, because they gave him one hell of a personality for a box art legendary, instead of just like, here's your dog at the end of the game like Sword and Shield did. And then it's time for the man, the myth, the legend himself, the best mon of Generation 9, Wiglet. And of course, Wiglet is my number 1 Pokemon. You could have seen this from the second they revealed Wiglet. You could have told me that that would be my favorite Pokemon. I'd be like, yeah, makes sense, because he is. I really like the Sprigatito line, I really like Miraidon, I really like Clodsire. But it's Wiglet, come on. How could he not be number 1? Because it's just Diglett. It's just funny, long Diglett. Because they just made Diglett, and they made him funnier. They made him shaped like a cock. That's so funny. That's so funny. Literally, one of the funniest things they've ever done. And they've made Alolan Dugtrio, another very funny and awesome Pokemon. And he's also so bad. Just like Wugtrio, he dies in like one hit to anything. You get him with a not super effective move, and he just dies. You get him with another Wiglet, and he dies. And I love him, because he's so bad, but he's my kind of bad. And then obviously I used him in my playthrough. I used Greg the Wiglet on my playthrough. And I almost want to beat the game. Maybe let me know if you guys want to see this. If I beat the game using only 6 Wiglets, and I just like completely destroy everyone with like level 100 Wiglets by the end. Not even Wugtrios, just Wiglets. Because I love Wiglet so much. And a little side thing is that when you send him out into battle, he chirps like a bird. Like, come on. How could you not love him? It's just like how Cloth moves when he moves like a cloud. Oh my god, yeah, we've been filming for 52 minutes. I am stumbling on my words all of a sudden. Yeah, but Cloth moves like a cow, Wiglet chirps like a bird. It's like chirp chirp when you send him out into battle, and that's just so awesome. And just Wiglet's awesome. I don't know what else you want me to say. Okay, so I'm a little worried about making this video, because now I have to film 52 minutes of one screenshot, and I have to find 52 minutes of music from the game to put in the background of this. But that's not for you to worry about, and it's only for me to worry about. So right now, thank you so much for watching this series up to this point. I hope you're looking forward to the conclusion of this series. We've done every generation and Mega Forms, so now we just gotta put them all together. So next time you see me in a Pokemon Tier List video, unless you're watching an old one, it'll be me talking about the worst of the worst Pokemon. So I'll be talking about all the Pokemon across the series that have been put in the not a fan tier and the bad tier. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be including Megas in the list, because that makes it complicated, because that's kind of like forms. So every bad Pokemon from Gens 1 through 9, every not a fan Pokemon from Gens 1 through 9, I will be ranking from worst to best, and be telling that to you next time. But now that you've watched 54 minutes of me talking about Gen 9 Pokemon, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, or night, or whenever you're watching this. Take care of yourself, mental health is important, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye-bye for now.